How many times have you started a blog, a new hobby, an exercise routine, or had an idea for a business just to lose interest or crash and burn after a month? For me, it's been a lot. The hardest thing about creating vision and achieving big goals isn't the idea. It isn't the goal. That's actually pretty easy. It's at the end. It's not even where to begin. It's creating a plan with systems and processes to keep you motivated and on track. At the very end of 2021, I set the goal to run a 50K ultramarathon because I hadn't run one in a few years and I really missed long distance running. So vision, ultramarathoner, check. Goal, 50K, check. Where to begin? 5-mile training run next Monday, check. As you can see, vision, goal, where to begin is easy. Then what? Well, for me, I'm a systems thinker. And so when I'm making a plan to do anything long-term, big vision, like run a 50K, I take a step back and I ask myself, what are the things that would get in the way of me accomplishing that goal? For this, it was 3 things: time, decision fatigue, and motivation. So for time, I reviewed my calendar and time blocked all my runs for 4 months. For decision fatigue, I planned out every long run. So when I wake up Saturday and I'm exhausted, I already know where the run is, so I don't have to make a decision. And then motivation. For this, I recruited friends who are runners to run with me, so I had accountability, so I showed up every Saturday and couldn't miss one. Flash forward 4 months later, 50K, done and dusted. You got a vision, you got big goals, you want to know how to achieve them? Let's talk about it.
Welcome to the Culture Goodr podcast with Stephen Leese and Shaun Tinney. This podcast is a behind-the-shades look at creating and changing culture inside of Goodr sunglasses. You can live with the status quo, you can challenge the status quo, or you can do what we do at Goodr and status the quo challenge.
All right, so today we're talking about vision and setting and achieving big goals, but let's jump in to our lightning round before we get to the episode. All right. How many pull-ups can you do?
Ooh, I mean, just one go, maybe 20? What do you think?
Ooh, 20. Damn. That would be a good scale. I'll set 15 for my over-under, but...
We'll try it after this.
Yeah, all right, we'll find out. We'll follow up in the next episode, see how we did. Place you want to travel most?
Easter Island.
Easter Island.
Oh, yeah.
Love that. That's a good one. Do you like the word dapper?
I don't mind it, like Dapper Dan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Cool. What's the craziest goal you've ever accomplished?
Oh, that's a big question. I mean, Goodr's the most the Goodr you see today wasn't really a goal, so that's a hard thing. I mean, probably running a 100-mile ultramarathon. I mean, that took a lot of time and a lot of preparation to get there.
Seems like a lot of work.
Yeah,
I almost
it is.
Did a half marathon one time. 100's way further.
You're close. You're close.
It's pretty much a tenth of the way there. Cool. So let's see here. One more. What is your vision of wild success for this podcast?
Oh, it's. Are you talking about this episode or the podcast holistically? Whole thing. So I saw this question and I went back to our deck because for the podcast, when we decided to do it late 19, early 20, 2019, early 2020, made a full deck. All right, here's the vision. Here's what we want to do. Here's everything. And I was like, I wonder how hard would this be to find? And I did. And the wild success is this. There's 6 of them, which is usually, that's abnormal. Usually we don't have that many, but other brands adopt a version of our culture. Check. That's actually happened.
Right.
Not fully like unilaterally, but
sure.
We create a conference like Zappos where people pay to learn about our culture. In the process of doing that, we poach a shitload of top talent based on our culture. I'm not sure if we poach, but the podcast is a huge resource for recruiting.
That was a surprise.
Yeah, super big surprise. Then employees everywhere feel more engaged in their work and supported by their companies. Well, that's hard to quantify, so we'll move past that.
Right.
Then either Daniel Pink, Brene Brown, Seth Godin calls me to be on the podcast. That's probably that's will be wild. And then I get invited to do a TED Talk.
Yeah, nice. Asking for a friend. Cool. All right. So in the Why We Exist episode, you talked about how we created a new mission statement at the Advantage offsite. But that wasn't the only clarity that came away from that session. There was a bunch more. Can you just give a high-level example or overview of the questions that you were looking to answer, and then some of the things that we came away with? Yeah,
I mean, the book The Advantage, which we use to kind of govern this offsite, is awesome. There's 4 disciplines in that book. It's build a cohesive leadership team, create clarity, over-communicate clarity, reinforce clarity. But that day was really focused on creating clarity. And so the questions we sought to answer were, why do we exist? How do we behave? what do we do? How will we succeed? And what is the most important thing at our company right now? And so we have used those in many different strategic ways. Some of the things we already had answers to, we repackaged it, but it really has set the tone for getting everybody here on the same page and moving in the same direction.
Yeah. Awesome. That thing just that's like the giving tree.
Yeah. It gives me, I mean, we're talking about vision. So an interesting part about this offsite and this concept is, why we exist. That's our mission statement, how we behave, that's our 2 core values. So we have that, then our strategic anchors, but it calls out that you should be identifying as a business 2 max. We do only 1 now, but 1 big problem as a brand you want to solve collectively. And so year 1, 2020, it was clarity. We want to make sure that everybody here understood their role, the expectations, who we were as a brand. And so we had 20 projects that really worked towards that. Actually, I had a account actually, but we worked on clarity for year 1. Year 2, it was vision. And so focus on like making sure that we have vision. We're looking far down the road. And what's wild is every spring at our company summit, I revisit, did we do what we say we're going to do? And we did. And then this last year it was NASA, which we talked about in the last episode. And it's this really amazing thing that we collectively as a group are taking on a giant project, creating multiple projects and initiatives, and crushing it. In 3 years in a row, we have unilaterally solved the problem that we sought out to do. Those things are now, clarity's a practice, right? Vision's a practice. So it's not like, clarity's done for the rest of our lives, but we are all aligned, and it's an amazing, it's such a good use of time and energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing to see the ripple effect of all those things, and kind of realizing as you're saying that, how much it gets built into the baseline that we work from moving forward bit by bit. We integrate these formulas or these checkpoints, and then it becomes second nature. And all of a sudden, everybody's just doing that naturally in the way that they approach anything.
Yeah. What was really funny about this last spring was I was talking about our vision, and last year I kind of gave a vision. I kind of gave our 1 to 5 year, and I go, man, I'm going to get up on stage and call out all the things I promised and talk shit about myself of all of the stuff we didn't do. Did everything. And that I'm like, yeah, we got it. We got that on lock. We're good.
Right.
Yeah. It was a pretty fun thing, but it is a practice. I mean, a project that never ends is a practice. And so we are really good at this company at setting goals and vision, and then creating, like weaving it into our everyday life, not just like dusting off our hands and saying we're done. Being like, no, it is now a practice. And that I think is one of the keys to success for us.
For sure. You're a big fan of the phrase, the ideas are cheap, execution is everything. And what you're saying there essentially, Stephen, is like, yeah, it's easy to have ideas, but it's difficult to follow through. And almost surprisingly, we've followed through a lot more often than even you would have thought, right?
Yeah.
So what's up with that?
I mean, first we do trash a ton of ideas. So let's just get that out of there. I think that I for sure thought about it. I love the work. I love systems thinking. And so what I mean by that is I believe in, James Clear talks about this really well in his book, Atomic Habits, but I think the quote from him is, we don't fall to the level of our goal, or we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And that's really important. And so here we have a thing called AMP. AMP is our quarterly review system. So every quarter, every person has a review with their leader, and we have things that they talk about in their role. It's structured. We have a scoring system. We do that every 3 months on nonstop. And that's an example of a system. So feedback exists, right? If that's something that we can put a system in place to solve. How do we create space for people to really connect and celebrate what we're doing? Well, we have goodr talk every 3 months. We do goodr talk. And so it's really, whenever I see an issue, I pull back and I think like, well, how can we create systems to solve what this is? And that is really, I think, at the crux of like why we're able to take ideas and see them through. And it's right. There's a lot of it. It's now in our culture, everybody understands it, checkpoints and templates and things that other leaders here are taking and creating are really tied back to this whole idea of we have a vision, we want to do cool stuff, let's make up the appropriate plan to get us there. And it's different a lot of the times.
Absolutely. But the thing that remains consistent is all these touch points of accountability, of checking in quarterly, of checking in annually, celebrating in different ways. And that is probably the thing that gets us the most traction, right? We don't just say, oh yeah, do that and then see how it goes. We're like, do that and we'll see how it goes on October 1st at this meet,
yeah, for sure. Right. I mean, that is a really important thing is there's a lot of accountability in here. And that is the kind of the crux of this. And this is like the dirty secret. It's not really a secret. Is, hey, quarterly reviews. That is designed for accountability. That is making sure, actually, it's way more for the leaders than it is for everyone else. It's making sure that, Shaun, you're a flock leader. You're giving everybody on your team direct feedback, right? It is your Nicole, who is your flock star. I sit in the room for all the flock leaders, and so they all give really good feedback. Last quarter, there was a couple of people who I knew had really hard quarters, but they came in that room and they were self-aware because there's checkpoints. We have a monthly template that goes into our quarterly, and in our ability just to do that. I mean, I know if I'm dragging my feet on something, I set it as a goal. I set a date to share it with the company, and then I'm fucked because I have to do it.
Right. And then I know in your system, there's like a question, are you dragging your feet on anything?
Yeah, 100%.
So you've been asking yourself that as you go, and you're like,
I am.
This.
Yeah, and detailed weekly review, which most people do here, so it all ties together.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that has served us pretty well is just the willingness to be flexible, right? You often say what worked for goodr in 2018, 2019 doesn't work in 2020, et cetera. So how do you feel like that mindset is playing into things as we continue to grow?
Yeah, I think a lot of the reasons companies fail is they're unwilling to change. I think that's very, very real. We do it in our everyday lives. We get so wrapped up in either being right or how things used to be. I notice I give talks a lot, and I'll sometimes look at the crowd and they are disengaged, right? And in that moment, I'm like, well, I will go completely off script. I'll do whatever I have to do to get them back, right?
Yeah.
Fuck the talk I prepared for.
It's not working.
It's not working. So make something work. And so I'm way more interested in getting it right than being right. And so if you can like hold that space for that, it creates a whole world of opportunity. And so the vision of, and this is why with vision, something tactical like a 100-mile race, all right, you can measure that, but really, can you set vision to things that have more more space to them, so then you have room to like move and change and not feel like a failure when you pivoted. And that's another thing. When you do this long enough, you get really good about that's a bad goal because that's not attainable.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's weird how often a goal. One of my friends always says, if you accomplish all your goals, you'll become the person you used to want to be.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes goals can make you feel stuck, or you get stuck on that path, and it's just kind of you lose the juice that was getting you going in the first place. And what a relief to be able to just be like, we just change that, just aim in a different direction, right?
Yeah, change is really the only constant thing here at goodr. I think two things. One, if you ever had friends or been with a partner that maybe you're not together with, and somebody goes like, well, you've changed. I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit, I've changed. We've been together 7 years.
Right.
Do you want to date Steven from 7 years ago? I don't think you do. Or maybe you do, but do you want a person who never changes?
Right.
So and I have a role here of chief culture cultivator, and really the purpose is making sure we evolve our culture appropriately, because it is impossible to keep the same culture at 20 people, at 50, at 75, at 100, at 150. So how do we just evolve it appropriately? And if you know that's coming, then you don't white knuckle the past.
Yeah, for sure. And we're hitting those growth inflection points so quickly that we're like, by the time we adjust to the one we just hit, we're like, oh, we're at a new one now. So we're just going to have to do things differently again.
Yeah. And I mean, everything has an opportunity cost, right?
Yeah.
We were recently at a leadership retreat, and I got asked, I can't remember, it was like, what's one thing you wish you could still do? And my answer was, hey, I can't show up to company parties anymore and get blackout drunk, right? Like it's not 5 friends running a thing in 2017.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that I can't do anymore because I'm the CEO and we really are responsible. Also, people don't want to party with their CEO. They just fucking don't.
Yeah.
And I'm well aware of this. And if 7 years ago somebody had been like, hey, here's a trade. goodr's going to be this, but these are all the things you're going to have to change. But Craig, tell me where to sign, bud.
Yeah, right.
And that I think people don't appreciate that everything has an opportunity cost associated with it.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So pretty obvious you have to set goals in order to achieve them, right? I feel like we take things a little further from the clarity perspective with the vision that goes along with those things. You used to talk more about 5-year goals, and we've kind of shifted that down to more like a 3-year-ish kind of thing. You want to talk about that shift a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it used to be 1, 2, 5. Now it's now it's 3, 2, 1. But or it's 3 years. I mean, really, we barely know what's going to happen in a year. And so the idea of planning 5 years down the future in the context of goodr, who's growing rapidly fast, is laughable.
Yeah.
And so, all right, back that up. But for us, 3 years is the magic number that we've created. And what's really, it's way more tangible. It's more tangible for this reason. When you're laying out a 3-year vision plan, what I encourage people to do, whether it's your work or your person, is pick 3 things to focus on in the first year. You're in this year, you know your big 3 priorities. What are they top of your head? Do you know yours?
Oh, so mine, every time you ask me, it goes blank.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So I'm creating a culture mastery track. We're working to infuse DEI into everything we do. And then sort of like taking over the productivity coaching side of things from another one of our flocks.
Got it.
Yeah.
And right, so you're in it, those things are active. And then I coach everybody to don't do year 2 next, do year 3. Hey, where do you want to be in 3 years? Because 3 years is, we drastically overestimate what we can do in a week and underestimate what we could do in 3 years.
Yeah.
It is wild. And so if you know where you want to be in 3 years, then your 2-year vision, what is the giant step you need to take to get the 3? And so that's kind of how I view, we call it Vision 3-2-1, counting that down that way.
Yeah, I actually think looking out to year 3 is almost more helpful because, like you say, like you can't, year 2 makes no sense until you're like, oh, we're trying to go here, but here's where we are now. And you just kind of build the bridge between what feels a little bit out of reach and what you know you're definitely in charge of right now.
Oh, you can move a mountain in 3 fucking years.
Yeah, totally. The overestimating thing is hilarious. I can't tell you how many times like I kick something forward to like a Friday and I'm like, I'm going to do all this. And then I get like 2 things done. I'm like, damn,
I know.
It's just not that much time. Oh, well. So how do you feel like we're leveraging that formula, the 3-2-1 formula in our company as a whole?
Yeah, every spring, I'll get in front of the company and do our Vision 3-2-1 as a brand. So what do we want to do in 3 years, 2 years, 1 year? And then every flock star, which is our department heads, they do that for their herds. Same thing. All right, it fits up. So every department is doing a 3-2-1, and then every team inside the department is doing the same thing. And then even down to, we have every person here doing their own goodr 3-2-1, and then we encourage you to do your own personal 3-2-1. That's really up to you.
Yeah.
But really like nesting all this, so we understand what we're all looking at together and see where there's disconnections. Because when you do this, it's really, the brand and the departments and the teams are easy, but individuals, it becomes a little more dicey. But it's a really important leverage point for people to talk with people on their team. Because if somebody on their team wants to be doing X and that's not here at goodr, like let's start talking about that now and making that plan.
Yeah.
Or it is available, but I want to do this type of work. Cool, here's where you probably need to be going between now and then to get there. And so it is really part of like a master system that nests inside each other.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy when each of those things fits really well together, how much gets done in a very small amount of time.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It is. I can't even people, I think they might have a sense for it. The amount of projects and initiatives we check off the list daily, monthly, weekly, yearly is mind blowing.
Yeah, totally. I was just talking with my wife about that. Like, I don't know what it's like to work anywhere else anymore, but I feel like pretty pumped from just like how much I can handle in my mind at one time kind of perspective, because it's not actually in my mind. It's in these systems that are working their way to helping me take whatever the next step is that I need to take.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about our culture and vision and setting big goals and creating detailed product plans to go along with it, with actual checkpoints and metrics. That's the thing here too, is everything we're talking about has actual due dates and goals.
Yeah.
Like we want to be this revenue at this profit margin, and so we can track that. But when you do that and you're transparent, we share everything, you actually don't have to remember what you said because you're never lying. You can just go back to what you're working on.
It's in there. It's in the deck.
I mean, all the time, you probably sit down to work on a project and like, where was I? And I got to like re-jog it, but it's all in there.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of having it all around, we've got a few propaganda messages around the lagoon. What are they, and how have they changed recently?
Yeah, I mean, our core values are fun and authenticity, and the word propaganda, I think Mike created it. We have, in our main team room, we have a stage. It's where we have these giant posters that hang down each side that kind of look like old, like Russian, like communist propaganda posters, but it's just Carl the Flamingo, and it says fun and authenticity, so we call it propaganda. Right. That's there. We have our mantra for fun on one of the giant walls, which is we're recklessly committed to fun, blah, 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 sunglasses. We have our mantra for our other value, authenticity, which is if the goal is being authentic and people don't like you, it's okay. If the goal is being liked and people don't like you, you're fucked.
Yep.
Our entire, the tag for this podcast, the book I'm writing, is status quo challenge. So we have that on a wall. What's funny about that is when it went up, people were like, I think they put it up wrong. I was like, no, it should be that.
That's right.
And then the big thing we work on every year, which is, was clarity and visions NASA, we swap out the graphic and, we say, we are focused on blank. And so we are focused on getting the mood and building NASA. We'll do that by using insights, agility, scalability, and accountability. Yeah. And so there's constant reminders of where we're headed.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's like it is literally in the background, but it just keeps it top of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much of what we do at goodr happens on a quarterly basis, to the point where I started calling a quarter a flamingo year, because like everything that's going to happen to you just happens in a quarter.
If you worked here for 1 year, it feels like 4.
Easily, for sure, yeah. But we're considering shifting that to a more of a trimester format. So why the change, and what do we hope to gain by making a shift like that?
Yeah, I think systems are really important and being diligent about it, right? If you're a workout routine, not letting yourself skip. So, but once you get good enough at anything, when did you start playing guitar?
Oh, I was 14.
And how, like for the first 10 years, like how many hours a week do you think you put in?
Oh my God, I don't even know. Like that was all I was doing early, yeah.
And like how many hours a week now do you put in?
Oh, I would say 1 to 2 now, but early on it was like 20 to 30.
But if I was like, hey Shaun, play this, you just rip off a song, right?
Yeah.
Right. You built that foundation.
Yep, for sure.
And so we are 7.5 years old, and a lot of these things we do, we have built a foundation. So AMP started in 2017. So 5 years of a quarterly review, and we have not missed it. I mean, we go.
Yeah.
And this last quarter, I was sitting in a huge group of them, all the leaders, and it was wild where we've come, where people are on it. Not everybody's getting high scores, right? That's not the goal. It's just to be honest. So the people who had a rough quarter, they come into the room. They had already had the tough conversation. They know exactly where they're sitting, and so that recognizing of how dialed we are in AMP, we do a quarterly thing called PDA, and PDAs present, debate, align. 2 days, present big ideas. And it used to be you go in there and people are getting blindsided. They're like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And so, but now everybody knows we solved the problem of cohesion. That's really, really important. In this whole NASA check, we are on a rolling 36. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know what a rolling 36 is, we have the next 36 months of revenue down by like how many sunglasses we're going to sell of gingers in July of 2025. Every team's expenses projection. I mean, obviously we adjust this constantly. All of our metrics, expenses, revenue, planning, we have, and we update it every single quarter. So we're really, really dialed there. So you imagine that, and this kind of all this started happening once where I'm like, we are really, really into it. flash forward to what our goal was going to be or is going to be for next year is conquering space. 'Cause, fucking space. And we do space analogy as good as a rocket ship. We're going to the moon and we use NASA. But really the one thing that is very real is conquering both physical and mental space. So physical, making sure our office space is more functional, adjusting the DC to our distribution center to get more room down there. But then mental space, we are high performers and we do a lot. And at times it's a little overbearing. I'm very aware of like the expectation we put on people. And so in thinking about this, I'm like, well, Steven, if you move to trimesters, you pull out 1 amp a year, 1 PDA, 1 goodr stock, a bunch of things that are significant lifts for the company. So you go from 4 to 3, that's 25%. You are pulling out. Yeah. And that's how we are going to do it. But the crux is going to be, which I haven't figured out yet, and everybody doesn't have a role in this, is when we do this, and we do this because we're dialed and we're planning for it proactively, how do we create checkpoints to not fill that space with bullshit and actually create the space to be more creative, solve problems and do other things?
Yeah, for sure. It's the same thing with anything, right? When we were trying to do the space thing, resetting meetings to always Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yeah. It's like always Tuesdays and Thursdays, unless if you need to do it on Wednesday for a working session or Monday afternoon for this kind of thing. And then it's like all of a sudden you're back to where you started. You got to keep that meeting creep from happening. Same thing with all of this stuff. It's like carve it out and then protect it.
Yeah. And one of the cool things is we have two. So just for our listeners, we're a Tuesday, Thursday company. You have to be in the office Tuesday and Thursday. Everybody lives in LA, so everybody's here Tuesday, Thursday. And the rest of the time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's pretty empty. I would say maybe 10% of the company's here, maybe less. Yeah. And you only can have meetings on Monday afternoons, they're virtual, or Tuesdays or Thursdays. So Wednesdays and Fridays, you can actually do work. So we carved out that space. Then the week between Christmas and New Year's, no meeting week. So it's for people to, reset for the year. Yep. July 4th, no meeting week. And now with trimesters, we're gonna put a third one in there. And so we'll have 3 weeks a year where like unilaterally meetings are not allowed, period, paragraph. Don't fucking let me catch you have a meeting.
Oh yeah, totally. And it's crazy like what a relief it is to just be like, oh, I can just focus completely for 1 week. And those things that we're pushing off because it's like, oh, I need thinky time that I don't have. Like, well, now I do. And I'm gonna feel great by the time this is done.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, this is the thing about doing this work. I think a lot of times people hide behind meetings and so when you do this, you're like, well, like, I know for a fact you haven't been in meetings. You weren't in meetings Wednesday or Friday.
Because
so
we canceled them all.
Why didn't you get that
done? Yeah, exactly. Man, so it feels like we've done a ton as a company, right? When you step back and look at it all, what are the big milestones that stand out to you?
Man, I was thinking about this. I was going to go ask some people what they thought. I had a mentor once had a saying, it was like, you can't make magic happen or you can't predict magic. You can just create the conditions for magic to happen. And I think we're really good at that. The biggest milestone was making our first pair of sunglasses, the OG. It's our first one. It won Gear of the Year. Still to this day, with no factory experience, finding a manufacturer and sourcing product out of China is one of the hardest things, right? So we set that and we did it. And, all the other models after that, even though some of them are more technical, they're just substantially easier. Right. So like that is the one that sticks out because that was the first that led to everything else. But we don't focus on winning awards. I mean, I think we've won 32 product awards, which is hilarious for a company that doesn't focus on winning awards because it's not about that. Yeah. But I mean, big milestones, Vision 321. I don't know if I have it in front of me, but every year we set big goals and accomplish them. Moving to trimesters, that's going to be something that I have no doubt is going to get accomplished. We're going to do a culture conference, launching this podcast. We do it so often, Shaun. It's actually, they don't stick out because it's like breathing. Yeah. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. And as I'm listening to your answer, I'm thinking like, yeah, a lot of systems things that like no one would ever know from the outside are kind of the big shifts, right? even just, going, okay, you start out, you got the 4 Fs. That's helping to make all decisions. And then you add product, marketing, people, strategic anchors. And then just the more we build up these lenses that we look through, that actually has like a ripple effect through everything. And it all stacks up to big changes that feel kind of, a little small at the beginning, but man, it all adds up for sure.
It all adds up. I mean, we stood up a rolling 36 in under 6 months.
Yeah.
And people are like, that's insane. I'm like, yeah, no, that's what we do. And so that's the reality, right? We have really sharp muscles, like you playing the guitar. Like we do the work, so these things become super easy, right? I mean, I've went in and out of learning to play the ukulele. I know the 2 songs that I can play because they're the only fucking 2 songs I can play.
Hey, that's what you practice.
Yeah,
right?
but that's the difference. It's like we don't like these big things. Like we just like show up and it may seem cliche, celebrating the work or the results, and then amazing things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's fun to reflect on all that. As you think about that process, like the cadence of reviewing things quarterly or setting vision, setting goals through a particular lens of vision, what do you think that someone who's listening can draw from that? Like, how could they think about implementing that in their world? Yeah,
how they can think about how to how to take vision and give me some practical lessons for this.
Yeah. So how do you turn it into a system that they can use without knowing everything behind the scenes here? Yeah. I mean, I think there is a few things. I alluded to this in the last episode, but hey, starting with knowing yourself is really important. Mm-hmm. And so, you can do that in any number of hippie ways, but you could just start noticing what you like to do every day and try and recreate more of that. But from a vision standpoint, I would say, all right, be very clear on your vision. And what I mean by that, the vision for goodr was not having 130 people in 7 years. Goodr's a sixth company I've either started or been a part of starting, and the other 5 were failures. I just liked really starting companies. So I wanted to start a company, and I wanted one to work, and this worked. So the goal was just to get a functioning company that worked. Yeah. And to be fair, I didn't pay myself for the first 2 years. So it took time. And so that was the goal, and it was working. I was just excited to have a company and put money more back into it. Yeah. But also not your first company.
Not my first company, yeah. But so a tactical example, all right. Something like, I'll reiterate what I said in the opening. All right, you want to run a marathon, learn a song. All right. Mm-hmm. Hey, what do you want to do? Actually understanding the time it's going to take to do it. The biggest mistake most people make is they just try and do too much too quickly. Mm-hmm. So understanding that, and then really identifying like, what are the 3 things that are going to get in your way? So if you know yourself and X, Y, and Z. And so, right. So for me, in the run practice, there was stuff I talked about of, I need accountability. I will let myself slide. So if I know I'm meeting people on a run, I show up. So I don't care how tired I am Saturday. Now I don't set anything up Friday nights because I do a long distance run every Saturday. So take the things that get in your way and create a system to solve them. Mm-hmm. So I'll take it to another example. All right, let's say you're dating. You're like, all right, I'm trying to, whatever your goal is for dating. When I was single and dating in the world, I was interested in just actually meeting women that I liked that I could have a good time with. I wasn't wife shopping, but I did not want to, I was sick of going on fucking first dates. Yeah. And I had really one bad in particular first date, and I took a step back. I'm like, Steven, this is on you. You're a smart person. How do you solve this? And so I peeled it back, and I realized a couple things. Well, one, in the world of Bumble or Hinge or whatever app, that's how for me was Bumble, I realized like, okay, if the goal is you want to be on dates with women you like and you go on a second date, start understanding that. And so I started looking for, I redid my profile completely to represent who I was. Mm-hmm. So that when I show up, they've been talking to the same person all along. Right. Number 1. Number 2, recognize things that are off. Like for example, if somebody on their profile says no drugs. Like I do drugs in full transparency. And so if they say that, I'm like, we're not gonna have a good time. This isn't gonna, or no drinking. I'm like, well, I drink. So that's a no. That's an easy no. And then the third thing, so like recognize red flags. So I'm getting a better pool. And then the third thing was like, hey, you can only tell so much digitally. So making the goal to get on the first date as soon as possible so you can just understand, is this going to work? And then, and in that, for me, was like, all right, let's avoid any bullshit on second date. And so my partner Sarah was one of the people in here in this, and had an amazing first date. At the end of the first day, instead of should we do this? It was a thing like, if I liked you and we had a good first date, I would ask you, are you enjoying your date? Yes. Oh, hopefully they say yes. Would you like to go on a second one? Yes. Do you want to plan it right now? Yes. Done. And so those are like calculated things like I actually can control. I can redo my profile. I can recognize red flags. I can ask to get on a date soon. I can ask for a second date, right? Those are like those are actually just systems that are created to get what I want at the end of the day. And so, but it goes back to knowing thyself.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard authenticity, alignment, expectation setting, following through.
Yeah. And also, this is not I'll say this, some black and white thinking. What I mean by that is like, hey, if you're, if you said that this is a no, this is a red flag on a person, then it's a no.
Right. So you receive the information that they're providing to you, and
you're right. It's like, hey, if if your training plan is this, and you need to be running X amount a week, and so when you show for a 16-mile run, you don't do an 8-mile run. You do a 16-mile run. Right. It's black and white. It's black, or either you did or you didn't.
Yeah. Accountability.
Yeah. With yourself.
Nice. Yep. That's a self-respecting thing to do.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I know you've got a super simple personal review format. I love it. You've shared it with the company once or twice. Can you share it with us now and kind of how you use it in your life? Yeah.
I mean, I have a pretty... I've gone through different waves of like personal system. Started with GTD, moved to doing to done, but really I take accountability for my life. So it used to be really elaborate. Now it's simple. I'll tell two stories that I think people will get a kick out of. The simple thing that you're talking about is once a quarter, I have a reminder. First of all, I have a really in-depth weekly review. And in my weekly review, it has all the stuff that I need to do, agendas for meetings, anything that's going, if I'm working on a big project, I'm checking on that. I have monthly goals. I love running, so I'm making sure I'm setting up 2 group runs a month. I love playing golf, so I'm accounting for that. But then every quarter, if this is all you do from a personal standpoint, I think it would drastically improve your life, is I have a reminder and ask myself, or list out, what are 3 things I want more of in my life? That could be, sleep. That could be, travel. That could be doing talks. But 3 things I want more of, 3 things I want less of, and what's one project and one next action for each of those to move it along. And so if you do that, I never accomplish all 6. That does not happen.
Yeah.
But if you can get 2 of those a quarter, like you are moving things along. And I've done it for people before, and it really helps to just simplify a way to move forward. I mean, what's your experience with it?
Yeah, same thing. Just the exercise of going through the process of even asking myself, what do I want more of? What do I want less of? And then being willing to say, I actually do not like this thing, and I want to push it out of my world. Otherwise I might not take that action, or I might not even offer myself the chance to make a change without that level of reflection. And then it's kind of fun to go, oh yeah, I do want that. And maybe I will trade an hour of TV for writing or playing guitar or whatever it is, Yeah.
It's
like looking at the trade-offs.
And sometimes I think I want things and I go down the path. I'm like, nah, you don't want that.
Right,
or like, you want the easy version of that. You don't want to work for that.
Man.
So don't lie to yourself, Steven.
Totally. I can't tell you for like probably 10 years, I had the same goals. It was like, play more basketball, do yoga, write an album of music. I'm like, why do these, are they always the same, but they're never happening? Oh, because they're not important to me.
Yeah.
I think I want to do that, but I don't.
Yeah. And I think that, I have my own 3-2-1, and it shows up in my weekly review. But for me, when I first did it, It was I want goodr to do a culture conference, and I want to be like on stage keynoting. And then I think to do that, my thought there was, well, I really need to finish the book about our culture. Because that gives that's going to be a really nice leverage point, PR, to kick this conference off. And so that became my 2-year goal. And I write every day now. And so I wanted more space to write. And so I don't allow meetings on my calendar before 10 a.m. weekdays so that I can do that. Yeah. And that's really like that's kind of the one thing that I'm hyper focused on. But that comes from a lot of reflection and understanding where you want to be long term.
Yeah, everyone wants to have written a book, right? But nobody wants to actually write one. You're building in the time to write. And not every day is just going to be flawless victory. Sometimes you're just slogging through and you're like, I know, it's probably garbage. I'm just going to toss that. But you show up and you do it, and then ultimately it gets done.
100%. I mean, sometimes it's 45 minutes to write 2 sentences, and sometimes I can do a chapter in an hour. It is wild.
Yeah, totally.
But the other quick personal system thing that I do that I have had enough requests for this, I will probably write a book about this one day, is I do quarterly questions. I have the ones with myself, but then my partner Sarah and I, we do quarterly questions. Oh, yeah. And so every quarter we formalize it. I mean, imagine I think we started doing it maybe a year into dating, and it's awkward as fuck at first. So I want to acknowledge it. It's awkward as fuck. Now we rip it off. It's super easy. We make a whole thing of it. We do our questions. We go to a nice dinner. But we have questions that we ask every quarter. And some of them are reflective, like 3 favorite moments together, 3 favorite personal moments. Some of them are like, hey, what's one example of you being really pissed at me in the last quarter you didn't tell me about?
Yeah.
And then even things down like, hey, I don't want to have kids. I'm always being very clear, like I don't want to have kids, or are we cool with that? And we do it. We answer them honestly every time. And it's amazing the amount of clarity and actual just like space it creates in a relationship, because we know we have this one point every quarter where we are having any of these conversations. We obviously we have great communication between them, but like we don't have to carry these burdens. Like nothing goes without being unsaid. And it has profoundly changed my relationship.
Yeah, interesting. That sounds like that's like wild success from a relationship standpoint, but you're getting there by way of systems and processes that will definitely lead to that level of connection and communication.
Yeah, I mean, once you can ask for this to happen with your partner and get over the awkwardness, it's easy.
Yeah. Well, bringing it back to the business world, every single time we fill out a project template, there's that spot to enter, your purpose, the vision for this thing, but then wild success, which can either feel pesky or crazy or whatever. Can you talk about why you feel that's important, and how do you approach setting wild success for a project?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk a little bit out of both sides of my mouth in the sense of like, hey, the idea of like creating this big vision that is obtainable, right? Because if my vision is to play in the NFL, like I'm fucked. I don't care how good my system processes are. But that is true. And also what's true is I don't think most of us play big enough. I think we play really small in life. I don't believe that we are truly maximizing like our potential. And so the idea of a project, right, is what is the purpose? So it's an actual purpose, and what does that look like? What are the rules, deliverables, but wild success. And this is the thing that it should be blue sky. It should be something that is obtainable, but at the highest level. And so that's the reason it's on there, is to train us to think big. It's okay to think big. It's okay to think big and fall short, and really just like creating that habit. We've had wild successes come true. I'm trying to remember some off the top of my head, but I know I have seen it. I've seen wild success on projects. I've seen projects be so wildly successful that we couldn't even wrap our mind around it. And so, yeah, I think that, so for me, when I look at it, I practically am looking at it, and like if I was to revisit the ones for the podcast and say like, all right, what's really a wild success? Yeah, the idea of somebody like Brene Brown or Seth Godin or Daniel Pink reaching out to be on our podcast, that is wild success. That is weirdly obtainable. Like that could be obtained, or getting invited to a TED Talk, right? It's that could be obtained. It's not the goal. That's the importance. Like you separate the goal and the vision from the wild success,
right,
so that you have a thing to work towards, but then you create the space to do something that maybe will even surprise yourself.
For sure. It's like on the edge of possibility just based on the trajectory you're headed in.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you think there's a value in setting a goal that's like just outside of reach, outside of that's something that you could even possibly control, or does that feel like demotivating?
No, I mean, I think that if you are practical about it, right? It's if you're constantly doing that, then you need to check yourself or you wreck yourself. But right, and so in marathon training, there's a thing like A goal, B goal, C goal. So right, so if you're a marathoner and you're like, all right, well, my goal is to my PR is 3:30. And so you're like, all right, my goal is going to be, I want to do, I've been training, I think I run a 3:15 marathon. And so you're like, all right, I'm training for 3:15. But then you set these like, all right, if at a moment that becomes unattainable, like you have a B goal, which might be 3:20, then 3:20, then C goal is your PR. And so you are working towards this thing, but you also have contingency plans so you're not mad at yourself.
Right.
So that's a really so I think it's really, really important. And so the ultra marathon that I trained for, that I talked about, it was called Carl's May 50K. So just a bunch of runners at goodr, as you can imagine, and asked people to do it. And one of the people who did it was Duncan. And Duncan had never run a marathon before. He'd never run anything past 6 miles. And he shared this at goodr stock. And we were doing a 50K, which is 31 miles. And mile 16, I saw him at this checkpoint, and he's like, "Hey, I'm done. Like I can't do this." And I do the math in my head. I'm like, "Hey, yeah." I was like, "But you can get a marathon in a day."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, you're not gonna be able to do the 50K. It was a fucking scorching hot day. But you can get 26 too. So you gotta promise me you're gonna become a marathoner."
Nice,
right? And that's that's a wild example of that thing was just out of his reach on that day. But he also became a marathoner, which is a really cool consolation prize.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like a no wasted effort thing too, right? Like recognizing, well, how far have you come? What are you close to right now? Just get there.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you, I remember a friend of mine, I got them into a training group for LA Marathon years ago, and a month in the training, she fucking hated it. And I was talking to her, I'm like, she's like, "I don't understand. Like, I just hate this." I go, "Let me ask you a question. Like, why did you want to run a marathon?" She's like, "Well, I just wanted to lose a bunch of weight." And I was like, "Oh, that's the problem." I go, there's better ways to lose weight. I go, running long distance is fucking miserable.
Yeah.
It is miserable. You better love the miserable though. I fucking love the grind. And so, right, this is celebrating the work or results, knowing thyself, all these things coming back together, because I love the training runs. Like the setting a goal race is just to motivate myself to do more of the things I love.
Yeah. That's why the tagline is "Running is fun."
Yeah, running is fun, question mark. Yeah.
You might like it. All right, let's head over to Circle Bar. So what's one thing you want to answer again or just didn't get to bring up?
Man, I think be mindful if you're constantly setting goals and not achieving them. That's just you just need to reset your expectations. That is a defense mechanism that you are creating for yourself. And so just shift that, and start obtainable. You can get bigger, but like you really like what's in front of you. So I don't know, I would say that. I would say if you are constantly doing that, reset your expectations, and at the end of the day, when you want to do something wildly big, everything always comes down to just one step in front of you, right? I don't care what that thing is. It's starting a company, it's training for a marathon, it's learning a song. It is one step, right? You're learning one note, one key shift. You are running, 1 mile, even less. You're doing one step to 1/4 mile. And so understanding that this is all a process and it takes time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thanks, Stephen. And thanks for listening, everybody. Subscribe, send us your questions, and get episode extras at goodr.com/culture. Until next time, be excellent to each other.
We have a YouTube channel now. Watch us on YouTube.
Oh yeah, watch it YouTube. Or if you're watching it, hi.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Gooder podcast. To submit questions for the podcast, learn more about our culture, and learn how you can status the quote challenge, head over to goodr.com/culture. And don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you're listening, including on YouTube, where you can now watch all of our new episodes. Who knows? You might even catch a glimpse of Carl at our headquarters if he's not already passed out at the tiki bar from all the margaritas.